Hello everyone, good to see you back again. Welcome to my channel's tutorial section. Today we'll be learning how to carve a permanent maxillary first premolar. Here you can see its different aspects. It's quite similar to maxillary canine from buccal aspect with shorter crown and root and two cusps. So let's start. First we'll mark the aspects of the tooth: buccal, mesial, lingual and distal. Now we'll mark the crown length at 8.5 mm. And now the root length, which is 14 mm. Next we'll mark the central axis of the tooth, just a rough guideline, and connect this on the top. Now mark the mesio-distal width of the crown, that is 7 mm, but we'll take 0.5 mm extra. Mark it on the opposite side and also on the occlusal aspect of the block. Now we'll carve straight down, but first we'll make V-shaped notches at the cervical. Now we'll cut straight along these markings to the crown length. Keep verifying the required dimensions. Mark the labio-lingual width of the crown at 9.5 mm, taking 0.5 mm extra. Make the notches at the markings and cut straight down to make a cuboid. Make straight parallel walls within the marked dimensions and keep verifying. Okay, now we are done with the cuboid. Now we'll mark the mesio-distal width at the cervical, that is 5 mm, on the labial as well as on the lingual. Mark it dividing equally from the midline. Okay, now from the labial aspect, the mesial outlength starts with a concavity at the cervical till the contact area, which is slightly occlusal to the middle of the middle third. And then it follows to make a straight, longer cuspal slope, since buccal cusp tip lies slightly distal to the midline. From here it follows a short convex distal slope till the crest of curvature, which lies slightly occlusal than that of the mesial. Then it follows a concave or a straighter outline till the cervical. Now first we'll make the notches at these markings as we have done earlier in the carvings, extending them labio-lingually. Okay, so now we are done with the notches. So now for the mesial outline, we'll try to make it slightly concave till the broad contact area, which is slightly occlusal to the middle. Observe the angle and the side of the carver blade. Let's mark the mid region too. Just keep the crest slightly occlusal. Keep extending it labiolingually. See, like this. Slightly more. Now we'll make the mesial slope with the cusp tip slightly to the distal. Now we'll carve the slope, which will be slightly straighter, till the broad contact area, which is slightly occlusal from the middle. Use the back side of the carver with even strokes and slightly cross the midline. Continue developing the slope. Make sure you run the carver to the full dimension labiopalately. Make sure you form no bumps or depressions. Now we need to get this contact area slightly towards the middle. See the change in the angle of the carver for corrections. You can do the slope in one plane by maintaining the carver angle in initial strokes only. Here I am gradually lowering the slope. Keep cleaning and checking. Continue carving. See the broad area? Now just round off these angles. Just adding a little concavity. See? Rounding off a little more. This seems fine. just correcting the long plane, keeping the cusp tip slightly distal. Now we'll do similarly on the distal. Maintain the distal slope short and slightly convex and contact point slightly occlusal to that of the mesial. Okay, so let's carve. See? See, the slope is shorter than the mesial. So now we'll make it slightly convex. See how I have changed the angle of the carver, keeping in mind the level of contact point. Now the distal outline from the cervical will be straighter till the contact point slightly above than that of the mesial. Let's carve. See? Just a little more. The contact areas may be at the same level. Just little correction to even up. See the shape achieved? Rounding off any sharp angle on this side. Okay. Now let's clean up first. So we are done with the mesial and distal outline from the buccal aspect. On lingual, it will be altered a bit. We'll take it up later. From proximal aspect, it has a trapezoidal shape with longer dimension at cervical and shorter at occlusal. It's a characteristic feature of all maxillary posteriors that cusp tip lies well within the dimensions of the trunk of the tooth. That is, the distance between the buccal cusp tip and lingual cusp tip is less than the dimension at the cervical. Now for the first premolar, buccal cusp is higher than the lingual, so we'll make lingual cusp 1 mm shorter. The buccal outline starts with a short curvature till the crest, which is at the junction of cervical and middle third, and then it follows almost straight curvature with less convexity till the cusp tip. The cusp tip lies within the cervical line and also is below the center of the buccal root. On the lingual aspect, it follows a smooth curvature from cervical to cusp tip with the crest of curvature in the middle third. A distinguishing feature here is a mesial developmental depression that is present immediately below the mesial contact area. And also it has a developmental groove in the mesial marginal ridge in alignment with the developmental depression connected with the central groove of the occlusal. On the distal aspect, it has similar features. Other than that, it has a flattened area in the buccal side at the cervical region away from the midline. Okay? Let's take a pause to memorize all. Okay, let's carve now. First we'll reduce the lingual cusp by 1 mm. Just mark it first and then reduce it. Don't extend it to the full width, just on the lingual cusp. Don't worry about this shape, the lingual aspect will be managed later. Now we'll mark the labio-lingual dimension at the cervical, which is 8 mm. Carve the notches at these markings as before. Like this. So as explained earlier, the cusp tip will lie well within these markings, also following the center of the buccal root. So we'll take the buccal cusp tip here and the crest of contour at the junction of cervical and middle third. So it will be around here. So let's start. See the angle of the carver. Like this, at the junction of middle and cervical third. And the less convex stator plane till the cusp tip over here. Connect the cusp tip to the crest. Keep running to the full width so that you don't develop any bumps. Like this. See how I'm approaching the crest. See the buccal outline now? Just a little more. Remember to keep the tip within the cervical. See the crest is coming here. Just smoothing off. See, like this. Now from the lingual side, as explained earlier, the crest of the curvature will be in the middle third with a smooth convex outline. Don't worry about this part, we'll carve it later. Okay, so getting the crest in the center. Just developing the curvature evenly from both ends. Cusp tip to be within the cervical dimension and also follows the lingual outline of the lingual root. Keep cleaning to visualize better. See now, the portion we reduced for the lingual cusp is almost gone. So reducing it flat would be better. See, like this. So the curvature will start from here, just refining the base. This cusp tip will be in the line with the root outline. Little more curvature is required here. Observe how the angle of the carver blade is changed to develop the contours. So this is the gross basic shape achieved. Next we'll develop the occlusal outline. But first we'll clean up. Okay, so now we are done for the buccal and proximal aspect. Now we'll do the occlusal. Now the occlusal aspect to describe is of a hexagonal shape, which is not equilateral. Also, it is wider on the buccal side and narrower on the lingual side. So the crown will be tapering on the lingual side. Also, it has a well-developed buccal ridge and less developed lingual ridge. Buccal ridge lies slightly distal to the lingual ridge. There are crest of the contact area on both proximal sides, which are on buccal side. The distal crest of the contact area is more buccal than mesial side. The mesial crest of contact area lies lingual to the cusp tip and distal will be slightly buccal. The outline of the distal side will be curved towards the mesial. Now, since the crest of the contact area is towards the buccal, the distobuccal side is shorter than the mesiobuccal. And mesial outline till the lingual crest will be shorter than distal side. Also, we can say that the mesio-lingual is shorter than the distolingual side. It includes short mesiolingual and long distolingual slopes. So this is about the basic outline. But first we'll lower the cusp ridge to develop even slope from the buccal to lingual. See? Now we'll do the occlusal. This is the distal side. Just clearing the marks again. Okay, so now the distal side keeping the contact area more to the buccal side. Carve gently. Observe the angle of the carver. Keeping the crest of the contact towards buccal. Like this. Similarly, carve on the mesial side. You can carve like this also. Here on the mesial, we'll keep the crest of the contact slightly lingual to the cusp tip. See, we are also following the cervico-occlusal curvature, also maintaining the crest of labial contour at cervical. Need to do a little more. Okay, now we'll make the labial ridge so that we can visualize the proper angulation of the crest of the contact area on mesial and distal side. The labial ridge extends to the cusp tip with the depressions in the occlusal two-third. Just carve the depressions on either side, just as we did for the canines. See, like this. But it's a good idea to make it later after gross carving of the occlusal outline. So we'll do it later. Now for the distal outline, we'll be carving it more towards the mesial, keeping the crest of the contour buccally. So carving a long distal outline, maintaining the crest of the contact area. See from this angle, it's a better view. The lingual ridge will be slightly mesial than buccal ridge. Now very lightly on the mesial outline, very slight taper till here and short curve till the lingual ridge. Mesial outline is shorter than distal. Let's clean so that you see better. Carve a little more to develop slight taper from mesial outline as seen from the occlusion. Carve very light from the mesial side and more on the distal side. We have carved all the sides very grossly. See, we have carved the long distal outline, kept the distal contact area to the buccal, mesial slightly lingual and short mesial outline. Now we'll add some features. See, we are not having any cusp ridge for the lingual cusp as we reduced it flat earlier. So we'll now form the shape of the cusp. Now see from the lingual side, the buccal cusp will be visible as lingual cusp is shorter by 1 mm. Also we have tapered the occlusal outline to the lingual. So we'll attain the same outline as on the buccal side. Just the cusp outline will be of right angle and shorter than buccal. Let's carve. Getting the cusp tip. See how the cusp line is developing? See? Okay, so now check out the cross shape achieved. Now we'll develop the labial ridge as explained earlier. Labial ridge is prominent as in canine. Middle lobe is quite prominent here. The mesial and the distal lobes are not that developed. They are only prominent at the crest of their contact area. So we'll make the depressions in the middle and occlusal third to develop the prominence of the buccal ridge. It's very similar to the canines. Now just merge it. See the depressions developed here? Now similarly do on the mesial side. Clean it. Blend it with the back side of the carver. Merge it and smoothen it using cotton earbud. Okay, see the gross shape? Don't worry about these sharp line angles, it will be rounded off. Now observe where the cusp ridge is falling. Note this point that the mesial and the distal cusp ridges are found in a straight line, with the distal cusp ridge slightly to the buccal than mesial. As you can see here, see the distal is inclined to the buccal and mesial is inclined to the lingual. Still they are in the straight line. Just aligning the cusp line. We need slightly more depression here. Now we'll just round off the line angles, making longer distal side and longer distal lingual curvature and short and straight mesial side. Okay, so just rounding off. Well, the lingual side doesn't have a prominent ridge for the middle lobe as buccal. It has smooth curvatures only. Just rounding off on the lingual. You can observe the height of lingual cusp ridge. We'll lower it a bit more. You can see the level of buccal and lingual aspects. It will be more appreciable when the occlusal table will be carved. Okay, now just recheck the outline. Just need to round off this portion. Round off and even up any sharp line angle. Also clearing up at the base. Okay, first we'll clean up and then proceed. Okay, so now we'll make the occlusal table. This is the distal side. We know both cusp ridges are in the same line, but the distal cusp ridge lies buccal than the mesial. On the lingual side, both the lingual ridges are merging with the marginal ridge, forming a semicircular shape of the occlusal table of the mesio-lingual and disto-lingual cusp ridge. First we'll make that only. We can see that it's going straight. See? We'll be merging it with marginal ridges. So we'll make it in curved shape. See the angle of the carve with the lingual surface. Now on the distal side, see, like this we are getting it connected. See now? Just a little on the mesial too. See how I'm contouring the lingual surface? Okay, now the occlusal table. This is the distal side and this is the mesial side. The occlusal table is divided into two halves by the central groove. It has one buccal cusp and one palatal cusp. The central groove starts slightly mesial of the distal marginal ridge and it extends to the mesial marginal ridge, joining with the mesial marginal developmental groove. On both the ends of the central groove, we have developmental groove, the distobuccal developmental groove running outwards, and similarly mesio-buccal developmental groove on the mesial side. Hence, these form the distal and the mesial pits at their meeting points with the central groove. Okay, so let's carve. First, we'll mark the central groove. Like this. As you can see now, I'm using a smaller and finer carver. I would suggest you to use same for the occlusal carving. As seen from the proximal, the cusp ridges will start from the tip into the central groove. On the buccal, it will be slightly flat and then it will dip into the groove. Don't make these slopes too sharp or too flat. On buccal, start it from a distance from the cusp tip. Carve into the central groove. Like this. Go deeper below the level of the marginal ridges. Don't carve in straight plane. Try to give a curve. Do it from the lingual too. Carve central groove deeper. Keep the central groove deeper than the marginal ridges. Continue. See? Now you can see the difference in the height of two cusps. See from the proximal the contour of cusp ridges. On buccal started slightly flat. On the lingual, right from the cusp tip as lingual is sharper. Continue. Okay, like this. So keep checking and continue. Keep central groove sharp. Now we'll carve the slopes of the buccal cusp to develop a buccal cusp ridge here. Not making the ridge sharp. Now for the lingual cusp too. Very lightly, carving slopes on both the mesial and distal side. Okay, so now we'll carve on the side of the ridge. You can take a small carver or a Zales carver. Now what we'll do is, we'll make the depressions on both the sides of the ridges to raise it. Keep in mind the mesial and the distal slope of the cusp. Now let's zoom in. Mind this slope and continue making depressions on both sides. You see, the cusp ridge should have broad base here and should narrow to the cusp tip. Same on the lingual ridge also. So let's carve the depressions here. See the ridge? Similarly on distal side. Now you can appreciate the broad base of the cusp ridge, which is getting narrower to the cusp tip. Now same on the lingual. But we just need a little correction on the outline first. As we know that the distal outline is longer and curved to the mesial, so we'll add a little more curvature. And slightly straighter mesial outline. Now just even up. Also, we'll even up mesio-distally the occlusal half of the lingual aspect, like this. Now we'll make the depressions on the side of the lingual ridge as we did for the buccal cusp. Okay, so now we have some shape of the buccal cusp ridge. Can you see just at the central groove the ridge is flat? We'll slightly contour it. Now we'll add the developmental grooves. From the end of the central groove, go diagonally to the distobuccal line angle. Similarly on the mesial side. Make a small distal lingual too. These grooves should be deep to have the depth in the carving. Keep defining and refining the grooves. Slightly recontouring the slopes of the cusp ridge. See? Getting the depth in the groove. Now we'll make the mesial marginal developmental groove, which is slightly lingual to the contact area. So it continues from the central groove at the mesial pit and crosses the mesial marginal ridge, slightly lingual. Now round off the marginal ridge on both sides of the groove. Marginal ridge will also be carved down and round off here. Do it very gently. Keep rounding off the marginal ridge around this groove, following the contours of the respective side. Well, now you can see the shape like two nodules meeting at a point. Okay, so now we'll proceed. Let's zoom in. See the shape? Now using a sharp fine carver, clean and define the grooves further. Also, you can see major marginal ridges down here. The lingual portion is lower than buccal. We'll lower it a bit more. Similarly on the buccal part. Also, we are defining the groove here. Okay, like this. Keep it clean. Now we'll just round off this part. Okay, now we'll develop the cusp further. See the cusp ridge, make it little sharper. Maintain that triangular shape. Now just lower down on both sides of the cusp ridge so the triangular cusp ridge gets developed. Do the same on mesial too. See, we are also minding the mesial cusp ridge. You can see the ridge being raised. See? Well, you can use a finer instrument to clear and deepen the grooves and also to redefine it. See? Can you see the cusp ridge coming out? We'll continue developing the depressions on both sides. See, now it's more appreciable. Like this. Similarly on lingual cusp. We know lingual cusp is more pointed. Also, we'll lower the distal marginal ridge so that the lingual cusp appears more pointed. Check. A bit more. Keep lowering the marginal ridge. Don't worry about the distal marginal ridge, its edge can be easily carved again. Now we have lowered the marginal ridge. Now we'll make its edge. Just carve slope from outside and inside of the ridge. Like this. Don't carve deep here since we are only carving the edge. Now take a finer carver to define the grooves again. Like this. Need to clear and refine more. Now you can see sharp pointed lingual cusp. Marginal ridge has been lowered on both sides. Just little more on the mesial cusp ridge. Now developing the lingual ridge further, same way as for the buccal. Making slight depression on side of the ridge to develop the lingual cusp ridge, just as we did for the buccal cusp ridge. Check the features and look for any correction. Use a finer instrument again for the grooves. See now? just refining the slopes of the ridges. Now you can see the rough outer slope of the ridge. Just even up. See, now it seems quite fine. Grooves still need to be deepened. You can use a sharper or pointed instruments to define the grooves. Okay. Just a bit more. Okay, see now. Let's clear up a bit. We'll make the distal groove a bit deep. Like that. Refining using a pointed instruments with very light and gentle movement to clear off the debris from the grooves and defining it. Okay, so now we have got the desired occlusal. Check the proximal too. We'll just round off the sharp point on the slope of the ridge. See, like this. Now from the proximal, we'll just round off the marginal ridge around this groove. Seems fine. Define the groove with the sharp instrument. Next, the very important feature is the mesial developmental depression. This lies just cervical to the mesial contact area, which lies about here. We'll make a shallow concavity here. This depression continues beyond the cervical line to merge with the developmental depression on the root. Let's carve. This will extend from here to here. Just a shallow depression. It's slightly towards buccal, like this. Polish and merge using a cotton earbud. Let's clean up first and then we'll proceed with root carving. Okay, so we are done with the crown portion now. We'll look up for any correction if required. Still need to round off at this point. And also even up the lingual ridge at the cervical here. We'll just polish it and see. Just one thing more. We'll slightly reduce this portion of the ridge, only the portion close to the buccal cusp ridge. Just a little more. Okay, so now we'll do the root. First we'll mark the root length and then we'll start. We'll mark the root length at 14 mm. Make the notches at these markings. Now cut straight down from the cervical to these markings. Okay, now let's clean up first. Okay, so we have carved the crown and the parallel root length from all sides. Now we'll carve the root. Its root resembles that of the maxillary canine but is of shorter length. It has similar buccal outline as of canine, tapering to apex from both sides and distal tilt in apical third. And from the lingual side you can see the buccal outline of the root, since the root also tapers from the buccal to lingual. From proximal side, buccal outline is straight with slight lingual inclination. On lingual it is much straight, okay? Also the root is bifurcated evenly. On mesial side, as mentioned earlier, the mesial developmental depression is continuing on the root, crossing the cervical line till half the root length, and then it shows the bifurcation. Also the cervical line has just 1 mm of curvature here. Whereas on the distal, the depression is not seen, only the root trunk is seen a little more than half the length and then it bifurcates. Also the cervical line has no curvature. Okay, let's carve. First we'll draw the cervical line on the distal. Here we mark it with no curvature. On mesial, here mark the crest of cervical at 1 mm. Okay. And lightly draw the cervical line. Now carve on the root following the curvature of the cervical line to define it. Now carve in straight line till the end and give it a taper till the apex. The apex on buccal will be sharper and on lingual it will be slightly blunt. And also remember it will be tapering towards the lingual. Okay, let's carve. Use the back side of the carver. See, we are carving more in apical 2/3 initially to give it a taper. It's a slight taper, so carve gently. Continue developing the taper. Keep clearing at base to have a check on root length. Well, you'll notice that you will be having corners developed here. We'll carve them. Carve them down from the cervical following the taper. Do it on all 4 corners. Now continue with the root taper from buccal aspect. Keep checking the taper. Carve to the full length starting from the cervical. Keep clearing at the base to have check on the root length. Still giving the taper. See the taper from lingual now. Continue to develop more. See, each carver stroke starts from the cervical line. See the taper from buccal. Okay, now we have achieved a gross taper on the buccal and lingual side. Now we'll do the outlines from the proximal aspect. Here buccal outline is straight with lingual incline. Let's carve. Keep rounding off the sharp line angles of the root too. Always keep it clear at the base. Continue. See? Carve more in apical third to have lingual inclination. See? Continue rounding of the line angles. Now we'll work around the cervical line. First the buccal cervical line. See, it's straight. We'll make it with a shallow curvature, very light. Start raising it at the line angles and merging it with the proximal cervical lines. Keep rounding off the line angles on the crown and the root as well. Do it on the other side too. Using the light strokes from the back side of the carver, try to merge the root and crown. Now the lingual outline of the root. It's straighter than the buccal till 2/3 length, and then it may show a slight buccal inclination. First carve more in the apical third to get the inclination. The buccal will have more inclination. Also keep clearing at the base to have check on the root length. Now continue. See? Now connect this taper to the cervical to get a smooth taper. See, simultaneously we are also developing the distal tilt of the root by carving more at the apical third on mesial side. Here we are again making the root even along with the taper to apex. See the buccal aspect? Needs slightly more distal inclination. Carving more at the apical third on the mesial. See, now the inclination is coming. Now carve on the distal side slightly above the apical to develop the tilt. Now even up the whole root. See? See the outlines from the buccal and proximal aspects. Even up any sharp line angles. Let's clean up again and proceed. Continue rounding off with gentle strokes from backside of the carver. Keep checking for sharp line angles from cervical if any, and carve it to make it smooth. Just a little rounding off on the crown too. Little more work on the line angles of the root. Okay, now we'll start developing the bifurcation of the root. On mesial aspect, the bifurcation starts at half the root length. On distal, the root trunk is longer. That means the bifurcation starts slightly apical to that of mesial. Now let's carve. Start carving the sharp groove at half root length using the tip of the carver. Do it on both sides. Now before proceeding further with bifurcation, make sure outline is fine and clear at the base, so that your root length is maintained. Okay, so now continuing with the bifurcation. On the mesial aspect, do remember we have this depression continuous as the developmental depression on root till half the length and then the bifurcation. Carve the bifurcation slowly. Carve at an angle. This makes it easy to carve groove and give root a shape. We are making the bifurcation here. We'll connect it with the developmental depression. Just carve a shallow depression with Zales carver or the discoid end of the Lee-Kranz carver. Make it continuous with the mesial developmental depression. Root will be broader at the cervical and tapering to the apex like this. See the depression we are getting here? We'll also carve the buccal root in similar way, making it convex. Carve in the bifurcation to make it deeper. Be patient. Go slowly. See, the carver is kept at an angle to deepen. This way it doesn't exert pressure, hence prevents the root fracture. You can use a finer carver or a lighter carver to carve furcation further. Do it from the distal too to connect the furcation. See, we got through. Now keep tapering from both the root ends from the furcation and also rounding off. See? Now do it from the distal too. Both the roots after furcation are also contoured till apex individually. The internal surface of the root may be slightly flat. We know here bifurcation starts slightly apical with very slight depression on the root near the furcation. Just slight, not as deep as we did for the mesial. Okay, see now the furcation achieved? Just little refining required. Need lingual inclination of the buccal root. Clear off and smoothen the furcation. Be very gentle. Better use a lightweight carver here. Also even up from the outer surface. Add little more inclination. Check and even up any sharp line angle on the root. Make sure to make it smoothly contoured. Okay, so we continue with the furcation, extending it to the half length. Go slow. Keep carving with a fine carver. Carve at an angle to develop the taper and contour of the individual root. Use slight blunt carver to even up and round off. Again, fine carver to deepen the furcation. See the furcation and developmental depression. Keep developing the taper from inner and outer portion of the root. Also, we need to add more taper and distal tilt of the root apex as we did earlier. See? Do it a little more. Keep clearing on the furcation and taper. Keep the final taper in mind and continue till you achieve it. To get this final image in mind, observe idle teeth carvings or extracted teeth. Need to flatten the root trunk on distal side and even up the whole root surface with furcation from all aspects. Polish it with the cotton earbud. Clear up at the base between the furcation and at the pecs. This will define the end of the root apex. Now we'll polish between the roots. To polish, make a wick of gauge piece and get it through the furcation. Now hold it at both ends and hold the base of the carving with the other fingers and do the gauge back and forth, but very gently, no pressure to be applied. Now see. Finally, check thoroughly for any corrections still required. Here you can see very slight convexity of root. We need it in a straight taper. We'll correct it. Also, we need to develop slight curvature of the buccal cervical line. Carve at the mesiolabial line angle slightly occlusal to give a curvature. Keep merging. Connect and define the buccal cervical line with proximal. Carve straight down from the cervical line to get a slight straight line taper. Check now. We'll do on the lingual root a little more to make the lingual root thinner than buccal. Okay, so here is our completed maxillary first premolar. Observe from all aspects: the buccal surface, the mesial, the occlusal, the lingual and the distal. Check out all the surfaces. And now try to carve one. I hope this video was useful, so keep practicing and keep carving.